On today's episode of the Locked On Texan podcast, Big Sarge, the grass may be greener at home. We talk about the success of DeMeco Ryans in his first 2 years.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation! Big Sarge, you smell that? Do you smell that?
I do, John.
Smells like playoffs.
What?
Smells like playoffs. I am your Texas media member, Texas football analyst, John Hickman, alongside the man with the big hat, even bigger smile, and the polo, and the Lolos, Brian Big Sarge Bearfield.
No. Call me Playoff B.
Playoff B. Playoff B. Thank y'all for making us your first listen of the day, being a part of the Locked On Texans and Locked On Podcast Network family, your team every day. You guys are the everydayers that keep us going. We are talking about who is the secret weapon for the Houston Texans. Could be one player, could be a side of the ball, could be a unit. We'll close off today's show with that, parallels between the two teams as we look at the Houston Texans and the LA Chargers. Who could have the possible edge? We'll open up today's show looking at the grass being greener at home. And this is an interesting conversation. Sarge texted me saying, listen, you look around the league, a lot of teams looking for head coaches. Not here in Houston.
Right.
Not here in Houston. That's a good feeling to have. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can finish off your regular season is done, but you can start the playoff season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. If your first bet of $5 wins, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Big Sarge, you had an opportunity to ask DeMeco Ryans head coach, second year, a great question just about the success in his first 2 seasons. And how does that look? And let's get to what DeMeco Ryans had to say.
Coach, a lot of your colleagues, now former colleagues, are, losing their jobs, at the end of the regular season. We all know that this day comes. But for you to, some even after 1 year, how hard is it to have the type of success and be the type of coach that you are in those first 2 years, knowing that window is so short?
And for me, man, I just look at every day as a blessing, and I attack it that way. Like, I'm grateful for the opportunity I have to serve here with the Texans. I'm grateful for the people that I get to work with. I think that's what makes it even better, is just the people, right? The players, the staff, the support staff, ownership, just everybody being on the same page, right? It helps, like, us move in a direction where we want to go, right? And that's continue to progress, continue to move our organization forward, and that's everybody being on the same page. So I'm happy to work with the people I work with, and they understand our business, understand how tough it is to be successful each and every year in this league. So I never take it for granted, right? And I'm thankful for our guys and their attitude, and for them, the way they work. Anything I ask those guys to do, they're about it. So that's what makes it easy for me. And man, it's a blessing to be a head coach of an NFL football team, and I never lose sight of that. Never lose sight of how hard it is to be successful. It's unfortunate when you see guys lose their jobs, and also I think unfortunate part about it is also you just see it's almost like everybody's waiting to see what happens. Like that's kind of a little upsetting to me. Like if you're kind of hanging around waiting to see something bad that happens to someone else. But had to think about the families that are involved, not only the head coach, but the other coaches who are on staff, kids who are in school. It's bigger than just, oh, this coach got fired and that's the news cycle and let's keep it moving. Like, I think about the families who are affected by those moves, and it's deeper than just the head coach moving on and you get someone else. All right, thank you, guys.
John, he mentioned at the end, he talked about the families and the coaches, but more importantly, John, it has to deal with, for me, it has to deal with the fans, because on Monday, there were fans like Patriots fans, Jets fans, Jags fans, Saints fans. Later on during the week, it may be, I know, John, I know they did Mayo wrong. We'll talk about that offline. Maybe later on in the week, it could be Raiders fans with Antonio Pierce doesn't have a stamp of approval just yet. You could be a Giants fan and looking and seeing that that they kept their coaching staff even though they are in disarray. Could be a Dallas Cowboys fan not knowing the status of Mike McCarthy and if Jerry Jones is going to bring it back. One thing that I have to tip my hat to and give a salute to the Houston Texans fans is that they survived the 3 years previous to DeMeco Ryans going through the end of the Bill O'Brien era, going through David Culley era, going through the Lovie Smith era, only to have second year in a row, John, not having to worry about the franchise being in the hands of a brand new head coach. Now, there was some throughout the season, John, that were calling for DeMeco Ryans to be fired. And that was crazy to me because you say, well, we want an offensive minded coach. I see you put your glasses down like that. I like that. You want an offensive minded coach. And John, before I finish, if you get an offensive minded coach, then what happens to the defense? Don't you want a head coach who can go out and maybe hire or get the best person to run the other side of the ball? No,
Yeah.
man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so with that being said, John, DeMeco Ryans, the only thing he's done since he's been here is succeed. The only thing he's done since he's been with the Houston Texans franchise is succeed as the head coach. He's 20-14 in the last 2 seasons, won 2 AFC South titles, is playing in his 3rd playoff game in the last 2 years. And if they do beat the Los Angeles Chargers on Saturday, then they will advance to the divisional round for the 2nd year in a row. What the Houston Texans fans, a lot of them are, if you look on social media, the ones I talk to when I'm out, a lot of them are happy that DeMeco Ryans is here. A lot of them are happy about the culture that DeMeco Ryans is setting, the foundation that he's setting. And John, even if they don't make it to the AFC Championship this year, which is more than likely they may not because there's a lot of talented teams in the playoffs for the AFC on the AFC side of the ball. Even if they don't, he's setting a foundation to whereas we're looking up in a year or two, they're going to be playing in the AFC Championship. We could be looking 3 to 4 years down the line where they're playing and competing in a Super Bowl. So the one thing that I like about what he has done is set the tone here. The one thing that I do like about these Houston Texans fans, they are very appreciative because they know what they went through and what they have now. And so, like I said, if you woke up a fan of those other teams who don't have a head coach, then I feel bad for you. I could be feeling bad, for myself as a Dallas Cowboy fan here pretty soon with the head coaching search. But Houston should be happy with what they have.
My grandfather's name was John, and one of his favorite artists of all time was Johnny Taylor. Johnny Taylor had a song that we all know, "It's Cheaper to Keep Her." And when you get older, you realize what he mean is sometimes you may want to dibble and dabble and do what you want to do, but what can come with that on the back end ain't worth it. And I just want to say finding success in the NFL as a head coach is extremely hard.
Yeah.
You got a lot of moving pieces every year. You got to worry about free agencies. You got to worry about coaches leaving. You got to worry about trying to retain guys. You got to worry about maybe bringing in a guy that just doesn't do right for your organization. I would say that for the Houston Texans in the last 2 years under DeMeco Ryans, did a very good job of being able to retain guys.
Yeah.
A lot of you guys may not want to keep Bobby Sloyd. That's a conversation for another day as he's got an interview requested for him by the New York Jets, but kept Gerard Johnson, was able to keep some of the guys that they brought in last year, was able to get some good guys into the building this year, and a lot of that may have to do with DeMeco Ryans. We know for Aziz, that's the case, and so it's hard to sustain that success in the NFL. A lot of moving doors, a lot of rotating doors, but the grass being greener at home, I think, was the perfect title for this segment because for Houston Texan fans, the youngest NFL franchise in the league, went through 3 years of turmoil, BS, up and down, I can name it all day. Being able to have a solid foundation is what this fan base needs. Now, a lot of these guys may not like it. We see that we need an offensive coach. We see this DeMeco the right coach for this team conversation. And to that, I just say, well, Bryce Callahan will start to be the best fit for Tennessee.
Yeah.
They're picking number 1 this year, right? We can look at
Doug Peterson was supposed to be the best for the Jacksonville Jaguars, having won a Super Bowl, and now they're picking in the top 5 this year.
Again, in our same division, Shane Steichen was supposed to, and I think he did a very good job, all things considered. But you look at some of these coaches, they come in, offensive-minded coaches, highly touted coaches, they get the quarterback, and everything is supposed to be revolutionary, and it just doesn't work out that way consistently. So, offensive-minded coach, defensive-minded coach, whatever, DeMeco has proven to be the right coach for the Houston Texans. Now, on the flip side, LA got their new head coach this year after being mediocre for multiple seasons, helping the Jacksonville Jaguars a couple years ago get their playoff win because they blew a lead. We got to look at some of the parallels between the two teams and talk about who really does have the edge in Saturday's matchup. In the wild card game, we got Locked On Texans talk on the other side. Playoff time, and if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of the football action that we have. That's where Prospects comes in. If you love football, NFL, or college, and want to make a chance to win real money while watching the games, Prospects is the place for you. It's the best way to turn all of your sports opinions and hot takes into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With Prospects, you simply pick more or less on player stats like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns for a chance to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds. And whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or want to cash out quickly, PrizePicks has got you covered. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. Here's a special offer for all of our Locked On Texans listeners. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's PrizePicks, the app, or visit the website. You can win $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game.
Welcome back to the Locked On Texans podcast. John, before we move on to who has the edge in the wild card game between the Houston Texans and the Los Angeles Chargers, I do have to take just a brief moment to bring to say this about our last segment. Special shout out to the McNairs for going out and making sure that they secured the right head coach in DeMeco Ryans.
It's a lot of bad owners.
Right.
It's a lot of bad owners in the NFL.
Yeah. But John,
Shout out to the Buccaneers.
For sure. But John, when you look at Saturday's matchup between the Texans and the Chargers, who has the edge for you?
Well, before I get to who I believe has the edge, and honestly, I don't want to be called a homer, but I may be rolling with the Houston Texans on this one. You got to look at the parallels between the two teams. Two culture-changing coaches who took their teams to the playoffs in the first year. Harbaugh and DeMeco Ryans last year. And, of course, on the field, the obvious, the matchup I know we want to see, Kamari Lassiter versus Lad McConkey, two Georgia Bulldogs, two rookies that have meant the world to their franchises in their first year. Also, former Texans senior offensive assistant and now current quarterback coach for the Chargers, Shane Day. And he's a guy I think can play a factor in how the Chargers defense prepare for the Texans this week, being a part of this coaching staff just a year ago, knowing some of the concepts and tendencies of both quarterback C.J. Stroud and Bobby Sloyd. But on the field, these two teams mirror each other in some areas that both teams can capitalize on to win Saturday's matchup if the other team can take it away. Specifically looking at the rushing game between the two, the Houston Texans, nearly 1,900 yards on the ground, 31st in success rate this year, second in stuff rate this year as well. Look at the Chargers, a little bit over 1,900 yards on the ground, 29th success rate, fifth stuff rate. So you got two teams that want to run the ball, may not be the best at running the ball, but they would like and love to run the ball. And that screams defensive-minded coach in DeMeco Ryans and maybe a little bit trying to control the clock. That screams in Jim Harbaugh, just a guy coming right out of college, was able to run his way to the natty. Yeah, I want to be able to control the clock. And so that's what that screams to me. I think the edge in that area, dare I say, Houston Texans. Guys up front, Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, 2 Pro Bowl snubs looking to get active. Mario Edwards being back, play some good football. Derek Barnett getting involved. And so I think the edge goes to the Houston Texans on that front. The worry for me, the edge guys, I love Joe Alt, tackle.
Yeah.
They redefined, that offensive line in LA. I think that's going to be a good matchup for the Houston Texans, but I give the nod to them. Now, the Texans have a wide receiver every team in the league is going to game plan for. That's Nico Collins. The Stroud to Nico connection has a total EPA of 43 and a 55% success rate and a 5.5% CPOE rate, a completion percent over expected. And Nico Collins is still averaging 15 yards a catch. Other than that, John Mechie, Robert Woods, and Xavier Hutchinson has a total EPA of 3.5, and Hutchinson has a negative EPA number. They also combined for 29 first downs. Not a lot of yak yards between the two. And on the flip side, I look at the Chargers, Ladd McConkey leading the way for that group, 50.55% EPA, 10 targets a game. You got Quentin Johnson, you got Josh Palmer. After that, and those guys have combined for over 50 first downs. So that's where I give the edge to the LA Chargers. As a group, I'm really curious to see how will the DBs for the Houston Texans, how will the cornerbacks match up to take away Ladd and force a Quentin Johnson who sometimes can't catch a cold, a Josh Palmer who's an up and down receiver. He's a solidified wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 in the NFL. Where were we going to see Kamara? Where will Stingley line up? Will it be in the slot? Will he follow Ladd? Will he completely take him out the game? I think that's where the edge for me right now is up in the air. But Houston does have a shot to win this game and just take it away because of their defense.
John, you brought up a great point because the Chargers have 2 very good offensive tackles that is going to give Danielle and Will some trouble because they are really good at what they do. And I feel like that the edge for the Houston Texans on the defense, one of the edges for the Houston Texans defense is going to be forcing everything back inside. So this is where you should see DeMeco Autry when he's in the game. You should see Mario Edwards. You should see Derek Bennett. You should see Tim Settle. Hopefully, maybe they could get Fadakasi back. But also, John, I always mispronounce his name. So maybe you can help me out. I got the roster right here. He's number 79. 72. Tommy, Togiai.
He's been playing good football.
He has been playing good football, John, and they normally have the how to pronounce their names on here, but I guess they don't on this one. But he's been playing some good football as well. And so if Will and Danielle can force things back into the inside, force Dobbins back into the inside, I think that they may have an advantage right there because you also have 3 good run-stopping linebackers in Azeez Al-Shaair, in Henry To'oTo'o, and Christian Harris. And Christian Harris may be able to play some of that slot corner position for you as well. And I think that if you hit Ladd McConkey a little, a couple of times, because he definitely operates. John, this is something that I think that you are very familiar with and watched over the time when Tom Brady had Edelman and what's the other guy's name?
Wes.
Yeah, and Westwell, Ladd McConkey operates a lot in space as well. And so if you can keep everything in front of you, force everything back to the inside, I think that's where the Houston Texans defense wins. Make Justin Herbert uncomfortable, make him get out of the pocket. And I know he has some scrambling ability, but he really doesn't want to run a lot because, John, he suffers a lot from lower leg injuries. And it seems like every time he turn around, it's like, man, he's hurt. And I may not have that accurately, but I know that every time I turn around, he's hurt. And so once he takes a couple of hits, he tends to shy away from the contact. And then, John, I mean, stopping McConkey is going to be one of the keys, just like what you said. I don't trust Johnston. I don't trust him at all.
No.
I don't trust him at all to be able to make. Now, I also want to make sure.
Who would you trust more, Johnston or an FX Sports employee?
Skip.
It's my turn.
But John, when you so you know,
Locked On Texans podcast.
Woo. But yeah, so I don't trust Johnston to be able to help sustain those type of drives for the Los Angeles Chargers. And then when you look on the offensive side of the ball, John, I would love to see CJ Stroud take what the defense gives him, because one thing you don't want to do when you play against the Los Angeles Chargers, and Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans said that on Monday, you always got to account for number 3 when he's on the field, and that's safety Derwin James. Absolutely. You have to make sure you know exactly where he is, because he is one of those guys in the NFL that will make a play. He will make a play some way, somehow, even just his presence sometimes in the vicinity. So what I need the Houston Texans to do is to just take what the defense is giving them. Don't try to get fancy. Don't try to get too cute. I'm not saying totally avoid Derwin James, because you don't want to come into a game and you say, well, Derwin James just, controls everything and you're afraid to go at him. No, go at him, but just go at him smart. I'm pretty sure that's the same thing that the Chargers Chargers offense coordinator is telling them about Derek Stingley. Hey, look, that guy over there makes plays. And so we're not going to shy away from him, but by the same token, we're going to go at him, and we're going to go at him in a smart type of way. Now, John, the reason why I give the Houston Texans the edge and give them, even though there are, what are they, John? They're a 3-point underdog coming into this game.
I believe 3.5. Last time I checked. Yeah.
See, it started off, I think, at 1.5, and now it's at 3.5. But John, looking at, I'm saying to myself, what are you seeing in the Chargers that makes them favorites? Because, John, when you go back and you take a look at the Chargers of 2024, is nothing but the Houston Texans of 2023. John, I have some stats for you. Stat you down.
Talk to me.
Stat you down. John, the Los Angeles Chargers only beat one playoff team this year, and that is the Denver Broncos. They beat them twice. Against the other teams, John, they were 0-5. They are 11-6 on the year. They have 8 wins with teams under. They have 8 wins against teams under 500. That's a 32-87 combined record. The only team that they beat outside of Denver that was over 500 was the Cincinnati Bengals, who had to go on a run to get to be 9-8. And so I don't look at them as this team that's going to just come in and should just blow the doors off the Houston Texans. I don't even know if they're ready to be able to go and play the Houston Texans and advance to the next round. Now, we know that the Houston Texans are dealing with injuries. We know that we've seen play calling issues throughout the year. But I think that the Houston Texans get it together this Saturday.
I think maybe the belief and faith right now is we've seen, this is from outside guys, they've seen the Chargers be able to put the points up when needed, especially in the last 3 games compared to Houston. They look at I'm just trying to make sense of it.
Who did they play the last 3 games, John?
They didn't play a lot. They didn't play no competition. Last 3 games, Broncos 34, Patriots 40, Raiders 34. Compared to the Houston Texans, tough stretch, that 3 games in 10 days. But maybe that's what the thought is right now. We'll say this, and I'm glad he got opportunity to play this past Sunday, because, yes, Josh Palmer can do some things in the game. Quentin Johnson every now and then will make a big play. He's actually had a better year this year than the year prior. I give him some respect there. But we do need to see Miles Bryant.
I knew it.
We do need to see Miles Bryant, but we got to talk about who is the secret weapon for the Houston Texans. So that's on the other side of the break. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a concert of an artist we all love, Beyonce. The energy and excitement was crazy. It was unforgettable, and I got my tickets on Game Time. Now, Game Time has made it easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. It's easy, it's simple, it's Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. Before we close out today's show, Sarge, you did say something about the linebackers, one of the better linebacker groups in the NFL, especially when healthy. Now they get, Christian Harris back. I do want to say this in terms of being able to run stop, 25 run stops from Henry To'oTo'o, 25 from Azeez on the year, and also look at the defensive linemen, 20 run stops from Danielle Hunter, 15 from Tim Settle, 14 from Will Anderson. And again, to your point, if Houston can get Foley back, 13. So you got a group of guys that have done a very good job of being able to limit teams from running all over them. And you look at the average depth of tackle for a couple of these guys. I'm looking at Henry To'oTo'o 3.4. Okay, that's kind of modest. But Azeez, 2.5. That's really good. Danielle, 1.9. Tim Settle, 1.4. Will Anderson, 0.3. This defense has been known all year to be able to get out the runners, and I think they're a top 6 rushing defense in the NFL. Who's the sneaker rapper for the Houston Texans this week to pull off a win?
John, I know you're going to laugh at me when I say this. I know you're going to laugh at me when I say this, and you're going to look at me sideways, John. So I'm not going to cover my face. I'm just going to close my eyes and turn my head when I say this. Deontay Johnson.
Who said that?
That was Big.
Who said that?
Right. John, I'm going to say this. I'm going to reiterate this one more time. I never said or questioned his ability. I questioned his accountability, John. That's all I've ever questioned was his accountability. But, John, I'm going to be honest with you. Hey, when Joe Mixon gave him the stamp of approval last week, I said, okay, I got you, Joe. You know, you're trying to make sure that this guy is welcome to the team. You know, you don't want to put any bad, mojo or juju out there about one of your teammates. Now, John, when I watched him on Sunday just run routes, and then I went back and I watched some of the routes that he ran, John, I'm telling you right now, I'm looking so forward to seeing him and CJ Stroud collaborate on the field together on Saturday against the Chargers. And if he can get himself going, if they can find the connection, now you definitely have to account for him. It's going to open up the field for Nico, may open up the field for Dalton Schultz, and you may get a chance to see something different from John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson. But, John, my secret weapon is getting Deontay Johnson involved, because you get him involved, you also can make sure, you can get Joe Mixon involved, because now they're going to have to back up. And hey, that offensive line didn't look bad on Sunday, but Deontay Johnson is my secret weapon.
The offensive line going to have a tough ask of them this Saturday. I'll tell you that. What would be considered a secret weapon? Is that person that we haven't had faith in a lot or haven't seen the best from? Would that be considered a secret weapon?
It'd be a unexpected performance from a player from the opposite team. The opponent wouldn't expect, but the Houston Texans have belief in.
Okay, so by that, I like that. By that definition, we've seen guys just basically call out this offensive scheme all year.
Yeah.
We just saw it last week. I don't know how many people around the league, even though he's getting, opportunity to be a head coach potentially, I don't know how many people actually fear this guy, but I'm not going player. I'm going coach. I'm going Bobby Slowick. I know I said it.
Hello, John. Is that you?
This
Are
is
you
me.
there? Have you been cloned? Blink twice if you're not really
I
John.
have not suffered from mesothelioma. This is me. But I'm going Bobby. You say Deontay Johnson, and the job for Bobby this week is to get him involved. The job for Bobby this week is to create matchups that both Deontay and John Mechie can feast on. Now,
So you
I'm
think
not
Bobby got a
looking-
secret playbook for the playoffs?
I hope he do.
I think he do, John.
I
I
hope
think
he
he
do.
got some secret plays he's been holding on to.
I'm not looking for 50-yard games from these guys. I'm not looking for 6 catches. But what I am looking for those two guys specifically, because I understand and we know what Nico is going to do if he's on the field and he's healthy. He's a 15-yard per catch guy. What I'm looking for those guys to do is to be able to help move the chains and sustain drives. And when I look at a Deontay Johnson, and when I've looked at the opportunities that John Mechie can get, when he does get them, you're looking at two guys that let's mesh concept it up really quick. Let's kind of rub route it a little bit. Let's get the defender just enough knocked off of his balance so we can get you some yak opportunity. We all love yak. If it was a fifth,
I'll be
drunk. And so for those two guys, I just want to see them be utilized in areas and ways that make sense. I don't have any lack of faith that Nico Collins won't be able to be a game changer. I don't have any lack of faith that Joe Mixon won't be able to be a game changer. But I need for those two guys to come alive, because if they do, that they give, I think, C.J. Stroud the best opportunity to stay comfortable. C.J. is not hitting those big shots down the field as frequently, as consistently, and as comfortably as we saw him hit them last year. As a matter of fact, right now, just give you guys a quick number. Right now, downfield throws on 20 or more, C.J. Stroud is only completing a little bit under 33% with a negative EPA.
But you don't need that, though, John.
You don't need it. You only need it when it's there. And when we look at some of those 0 to 9 yards, well, I'm looking at C.J. Stroud, 72% completion percentage with a positive EPA.
Yeah.
That's what you need. You're going to be going up against, I think, a very good defense. This team doesn't necessarily allow teams to run all over them. You're going to need your quarterback to be elite. You're going to need your quarterback to be comfortable and make the throws that are there. And the best way to do that, you got a guy in space that could just run. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Bobby Slowick finding ways to be creative enough to get his guys, his weapon, even though they're thin at their position, involved.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment to the podcast on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. And if y'all to send all my clips to Fox Sports, me and Sarge need our own little segment. They're gonna be hiring soon.
I don't know. I'm good. But
we love Locked On.
I'm married. So make sure you follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Big Star Sports with the Z at the end. And hey, Fox, I'm good.
I'm good too. I love Locked On. We get the freedom to do what we want, but we get the freedom to talk to y'all. We're gonna do it all week, baby. Playoff football.
Playoff
in the city of Houston is back home. Playoff B. I'm just John Hickman. Until next time, peace.